What's up, Tweener Heads? Welcome back to another Tweener Head tennis video here today on our channel. If you are new to the channel, hey, how's it going? My name's Phil, and this is where we talk about tennis in a more casual way for you guys to understand what's going on and off the court. And today, we have a very special video with Tennis.com reporter Nina Pantic. She's also a former college-level player as well, and we've met while traveling for the tour. And we decided to get together and talk about some of the more relevant topics that have been happening during this quarantine that involve tennis, Instagram Live, and much more about what goes into our jobs particularly and what makes it hard for us to do our jobs and what's the easier parts. But before we start, I want to give a big thank you to all of you guys. We just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark and we've been working towards this for a very long time. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing this. The next stop, I guess, is 2K, 3K, all the way. Let's try to get this up to 5K maybe. Like, that would be unbelievable. So every sub helps in a big way. So make sure you guys do that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button with notifications turned on. And I hope you guys do enjoy this video. And thank you again for the 1,000 subscribers. Let's keep on going, guys. Thank you so much. Enjoy the video. I have no, like, how many people can do an Instagram Live in a day?
Everyone.
It's very annoying.
There's no limit to how many Instagram Lives can be out there. That's what I've learned.
Which one have you found more entertaining?
I think anything that Nick Kyrgios does is gold.
Well, no doubt. It's
yeah, so I think his with Andy Murray is top 5.
I didn't even see that one, but I just saw the amount of screen recordings that people post on Twitter because apparently that's news for people, so it's more fun.
I do like when they break it up, actually. I appreciate people do that for me because then it gives me the highlights. Sometimes these Instagram Lives are like an hour and a half and I don't have the capacity to watch that live, but then it shows up for a day, right? But then it's gone forever. So there's pros and cons to the Instagram Live life.
What do you think of his comments on the Laver Cup team?
I think Nick being on Laver Cup, I mean, that's like his bread and butter.
Yeah, he loves the team aspect. So it's kind of like when he ripped into everyone for Team Europe. That was...
Yeah, look, if Nick's going to do anything on live while he's drinking red wine, he's going to say things that are bad, and that's why we're watching. I mean, I don't think he's really hurting anyone, but I don't think he's helping himself either, but I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it too, but it's the reason why I got in trouble in Atlanta, so... Yay. Which will never be spoken on my channel ever, unless it comes up.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I think Nick's love for Andy Murray, it was fun to see. And this is a very unusual favorite, but I love it. Chris Evert interviewing Matteo Berrettini and Ajla Tomljanovic. That is underrated, but one of the best Instagram lives I've ever seen.
Really? I watched it for probably like 2 minutes and then realized I'm like, I don't necessarily like this, but it's okay.
I was into it. I liked having their back and forth being so casual with someone that they obviously respect, who knows them and is like able to ask them whatever she wants because she's Chris Evert. There's no limit to what she can ask.
What was the best question she asked?
She was asking them to describe each other in a few words, which was,
oh God.
I mean, imagine somebody asking you and your partner, like, it's so awkward, but because it's her, it kind of came off as like kind of cute and nice. And I don't know, it was just fun to hear her asking questions that weren't just like about tennis. They were about them as people and, you know, how their quarantine life is going, obviously, but then like how they interact with each other and how that relationship developed. Like, I've never asked a player, hey, how'd you start dating that player? We usually don't ask them that kind of stuff in the press room because it's really awkward and it's their personal.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know how Dominic Thiem started dating Mladenovic. I don't know why they broke up, but I want to know.
Like, I've heard, like, off record, I've heard things, and for me, it's like you hear things. When I've talked to people, you hear things off the record, and then it's things you can just never bring up.
Yeah.
And it's like spilling a bag of worms.
That's the hard part about our job is you want to relate to these players and you hear all this stuff and you feel like it's a conversation you could probably have with a friend or even a friend of a friend, but you're in a professional environment and you can never ask them this unless you happen to run into them in the bar. But even then it's off the record and they probably won't trust you unless they know you. So there's all these different ways of doing that and it's not really going to work out, but you can always, I don't know, think about it and hear rumors and
of course,
what Twitter has to say about it.
And tennis Twitter is one of the biggest outspoken things in terms of tennis. And have you been watching the Jordan documentary?
I haven't. I need to watch that.
It's
I'm behind.
Really good. I forgot to watch the last 3 episodes, and it just finished yesterday. But it had a good point where it was talking about the media and how they treated Jordan. There was the highest of highs and lowest of lows, and they would always go extreme or extreme low. And in tennis, it just seems like that way, for me at least, because And when someone says media or anything around them, it gives someone kind of a creepy vibe, unless you work for a reliable source like tennis.com or ESPN or Bleacher Report. It's like, for me, if like organizations don't know who I am, like I know the players, but the organization doesn't know me. So they're like, who are you? I'm like, okay. Like,
Exactly. How can they trust you if you're just your own brand you made yourself? It's impossible. You have to really build that credibility over years and years and years. It's going to take a while. That's the way to do it. But you mentioned Michael Jordan, but Garbine Muguruza recently was quoted as talking about how her relationship with the press is so up and down. She's like, they love you when you're winning. They hate you when you're losing. There's no middle ground. And I never thought of it that way, but she's correct. Because when we're covering players, I don't think about that. I'm like, yeah, they lost this match and this is what happened. And this is why maybe, and this is how, but I don't think about how that might affect them in the long term and how they might perceive tennis.com for covering them this way. I'd never thought about it that way. I feel like I should.
I think you should, since it's your job.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, because it's also more, tennis is a sport that everyone compares individualistically, because you have, for like golf or boxing or tennis, and that's why we kind of relate each of them, I should say. But it's, in terms of the press, you're focusing on one person. You're not focusing on an organization or who works for them. You're focusing on one player, one shot, one play. And for the media, when you ask dumb questions, of course it's going to be very annoying.
Yeah.
Because there's no one else to look to for answers but the player. Like, you can go to medical staffs and you can go to coaches, but there's a whole team aspect of like, oh, they played better, oh, they had a better strategy. Tennis, it's like, you can have a really bad day and still win, but it's like, who are they going to look at? They're not going to look at anyone else.
How do you think that the press is going to change after this quarantine and coronavirus? Do you think that they're still going to expect media to show up in droves to press rooms and ask questions close to players? Or are we going to be doing some virtual Zoom interviews, post-match headset interviews? I don't know.
Like post-COVID, I think it's going to be more like you would do like a post-match press conference on the court, but instead of doing it from someone being on court, you would just have the camera, them with a headset, and no one would be like within 5 feet.
Yeah.
Because like in football or soccer, you have them always going to the press afterwards, or like doing it like right on the field immediately. Yeah. And we have post-match press conferences at slams where Chrissy Everett or Darren Cahill goes up to them and talks to them with a microphone, but it's not going to be like that anymore. It's going to be like this, where we just talk with a headphone and a microphone that they have. Like no one else.
We have the mix zone, which is like basketball, where they in baseball with the reporters come and like hound around the player in a big cluster, and you have all those photos of them with microphones up to their face. I think that's over.
That's gone.
I'm not going to miss that. That's always been brutal. I've found that really hard.
Well, I had to help you.
I find it awkward when you have to like, well, it's nice to be with other reporters, but it can be very hard sometimes to get your question in when you're in such a casual environment without a moderator and without there being a level of question and answer. That's just my opinion.
Well, it's stressful too, because you have to make sure your question's right. You have to make sure it's proper. You have to make sure it's not going to offend anyone. And I think that's something in media that no one really is used to. Like,
and you can sweating, like they're just tired and overwhelmed and adrenaline's pumping and they're sweating on you and you're asking them these like deep questions. It just doesn't, I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just part of the job, but I think that's going to change.
Oh, 100%. And that reminds me of when Blake Griffin was on the Jimmy Fallon show, and Jimmy Fallon was asking Blake Griffin about post-game interviews. And he was like curt or short with a reporter one time. And then Blake Griffin told him, okay, so do 20 push-ups and then 20 jumping jacks and then run in place for 30 seconds. He did it all. And then Blake Griffin starts asking him questions really quickly after he's like sweating. Yeah. So that, in a joking way, it kind of puts that into perspective of, imagine your brain and heart are racing and you have to answer questions immediately afterwards. You work out for 3 hours, more than people usually do in a week. And then you're supposed to, not like it's an option, you're required to answer questions
thoughtfully and be respectful and think and, you know, put your words into like sentences properly. I honestly, I know it's their job, but I can't. And you also kind of probably feel vulnerable because you're sweating and tired and out of breath, but you know, and you mentioned Instagram lives in the beginning of this, but I guess that's kind of almost a new press room, because they are answering questions from fans, could be reporters, And you
Yeah.
can ask them anything you want through this platform and they might answer. And it's kind of been our only press room experience having these kind of lives and Zooms and all that.
I think it's more relaxed too, because once you have people just on their phone kind of casually doing something with someone else, or just if I did an Instagram live, I did one recently with a reporter from Sweden, Alex, and we were just talking, like we would look stuff up, chat, we would talk about experience, because it's not supposed to be formal. Like, I don't think, for me, press media has been, for me, it's not normal to be that uptight or that structured,
Yeah.
you know.
That
But
makes sense for you. Yeah.
for me at least, for my brand, because while I still do interviews and other content, like today I released a video about making Flex Seal string for a tennis racket. Did it go well? Watch it and find out. If it So it's like, I'm trying to find my own content to create, because that, I don't think it's just questions that require media to do, you know.
Fair. It's fair.
So Novak has been doing Instagram lives recently, and for me, I think it's the only time I think I've agreed with Ben Rothenberg on Twitter, because the amount of confusion, let's just say, has caused quite a stir with Novak fans. Well, not Novak fans, me, and
Everyone.
people,
With the
everyone.
500,000 people who watch his Instagram live, or how many people have seen it? I don't know the views of when he posts the videos to his page.
500,000, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite take was probably Mary Carrillo because I idolized her.
Oh, that was really
Phenomenal.
fun.
And she's mentioning like Flint, Michigan. I don't know what's happening in Flint right now, but I do understand that it can be very confusing to hear from a tennis player who's that famous on such a big platform about things that are unexpected. Like, you don't expect him to talk about water and that kind of mental voodoo thinking, emotions and all that stuff with like some kind of guy who says he's a guru. Like, it doesn't really make sense, but it's his platform and he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to talk about making water non-toxic,
Sure.
I don't know. He can do whatever. It's free. Instagram is a free country, and it's just hard because you should be a little careful. But it was. I mean, that was interesting. Definitely.
That's, for me, so the guy he talked to is supposedly an expert in alchemy. When was the last time you heard anyone use the word alchemy? First of all, like, I've never, unless it's like a wizard book.
It bothers me that guy, the part that bugged me the most is because of my journalistic background and obsession with facts, is that you're not clear about what this guy's background is. Is he a doctor? Does he have a medical degree? Did he write a book about this? Is he credible? What makes him credible? And is it just because he's passionate about water? That doesn't make sense to me. So I that's the part that bothers me. I don't know, like a background check.
Yeah, and and Novak has done multiple Instagram lives now with the guy. And the second time after the first one, the second time he did it, he did like a disclaimer about, this is my own personal views, this is my own beliefs, think what you want. And I'm like, okay, you should have prefaced that like the first time.
But we're all learning. Like, we're all learning in this new world on Instagram Live. What you should and shouldn't be doing is a hard gray area. In this case, I think you got to be careful. You have such a huge platform and people look up to you. And we've known Novak is into this stuff. We know, I mean, the gluten-free was just the very beginning of what he's into.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
into the holistic
100%.
body health stuff. He had that guy in his box who was all about like mental, I don't even know what the word is. Like,
is there a word?
I don't know what the word is. It's just like,
no, it's just mental exercises and trying to make sure like his mind and body are like centered and focused.
Like, if you believe that thinking and having meditation is going to help your body in some way, like, I don't think there's any issue with that. But you just got to be careful about how you portray it. That's all I think, is you got to say, this guy does not have a medical degree. He's not a doctor. And let's, chat openly about how Novak believes in strange things. It's fine. It's yeah.
It's just too much. It's too, for me personally, it's too much when it comes.
And we are also complain when players are too uptight and don't do anything. Like when, for example, like Rafa Nadal isn't going on Instagram Live that much, and well, not really at all. And he's not.
Oh yeah.
On Nick Kyrgios is calling Andy Murray and talking about how much he loves him. Like, I'm enjoying that. And then Novak's out here trying to do his own holistic healing thing, and we're all like bashing him. And we have our reasons, I think, certainly, but he's also putting out content of his own from
That's
his
true.
very fancy looking house in Serbia.
From that
Some nice
magnificent,
paintings.
I was about to say the portrait behind him or whatever that is. That looks like it's very expensive.
I can't wait to get back to tournaments and be like, no one's going to do this, but to be like, so tell us about this painting and these chairs people are obsessed with now because we've never seen the inside of his home before. And maybe we never would have, but now we have.
That's interesting. It's same with Rafa. When Rafa did his Instagram live with Roger. Yeah, that was, first of all, it's like two dads that are trying to use technology with their kids for the first time. It's the best.
So cute.
It's so cute. And then Rafa, when Rafa was like snapping, like telling someone to shut up, like in the corner, that was even the pinnacle, because I've never seen him like look so stern at someone.
And it was nice to see them make the same faces that anyone would when they're like completely failing at technology, where they're just like frozen and panicking and like staring blankly at their computer or phone. I don't know. It's all very relatable, and I was absolutely excited to watch that.
No, the confusion was the best. It was absolutely the best.
And Andy Murray's been in like everyone's Instagram live. I don't know. I think having an openness to try new things is part of our new normal right now in tennis, in terms of like content and news and coverage and what we're talking about, and having these players willing to just put themselves out there. As much as Novak is talking about some crazy stuff in a way for what most people would think is a little crazy, he is putting himself out there, and he's spending an hour on Instagram trying to talk to his fans. Like, at the end of the day, that's awesome.
No, it is. And
he wouldn't have done that if he had the French Open to play. Like, he wouldn't have.
No, and I think that has been a big plus for people to create content and for players themselves to show a different side of them. Yastremska came out with a song.
Yeah, she's singing. She had a cartoon, and now she's singing. So is Tennis Sandgren. He's playing drums. Corentin Montunin. I don't know.
Mute.
Yes, Mute. I'm so bad at that.
So I'm waiting for him and Yastremska to drop an album together. That would be fun.
The issue is that it's in French and Ukrainian, but if they could do a little bit of English, I'd be into it. But people are coming out with different videos that you didn't expect. Like, I didn't know Tennis Sandgren played the drums. I didn't know Yastremska wanted to sing.
No one did.
It's kind of nice. I don't like the dancing that we're seeing. I'm not into that, but I'm into the non-TikTok related. And some of the TikToks are creative and genius and funny, but the dancing I could do without. But I've enjoyed seeing, like, it's hard for players, I think, to do something that's not tennis. I think it's hard because they didn't plan on having to be something other than tennis players right now. They thought they had at least 5, 10, 15 years of being a tennis player. And now they had to figure out, what else am I? And it's kind of fascinating. It's been
Who am I?
wild.
That's the big question.
I feel bad for the older players, but yeah, it's tough, but it's also interesting.
Well, because I think there's no timeline of when it's going to start up again.
Yeah.
So people on the older side, like Venus said, like she wants to play after this. I want to play another 2-3 years. Karlovic, I have no idea if he's going to come back and play, and this is going to hinder everyone's, I think, career at least 2 to 3 years.
But you're naming some big names. I'm talking about players that are, late 20s, early 30s, and they're ranked 70 and lower. Like, they were still pushing for another year to 3 years, 4 years, 5 years of trying to still make their dreams come true. Oh, okay. And they're losing a year, and that's just brutal. And having no money. Like, I know Venus is going to be A-okay. Novak's doing great. But everyone outside of maybe the top 50, like, no income.
Yeah.
You can't even coach lessons because the parks are still, like, only just opening. Like,
That's tough.
So the Instagram lives, like, maybe they're all going to get Instagram influencer ads. I don't know.
They have to.
Does TikTok pay? I have no idea.
They do.
Oh. Okay.
So Katie McNally and Coco Gauff got verified on TikTok.
Is that big?
That's very big.
Oh.
And so did Osaka. Osaka was the first, then Coco, then McNally. And I think people at Octagon were like, okay, now we have to push for someone to get this ball rolling to get verified, because TikTok is the biggest platform. Currently, I use it as well. I'm not ashamed of that.
What does being verified help you? Is that just helps you get, like, ads?
Yeah, ads. But it depends if they want to monetize it or not.
Okay.
So that's the biggest.
I'm on TikTok in the sense that I'm looking what players are doing in terms of trying to turn out stories for baseline.tennis.com, but I am not making videos, and I don't think I ever will.
Oh, darn. That would have been fun.
I think if
I do effortless,
it'll be like private. I'd be like, haha, I'm so funny, and just leave it. Send to my friends, look what I did, and then never share it publicly. I don't know.
Guys, look, I'm creative. Here.
Look how clever I am, and then no one else needs to know. I don't know. I'm really impressed with Christiane. I know that we've had her on Tennis Channel, so it's
Oh
fun
yeah.
for me to say that, but I just think it's bold to put yourself out there in something that is kind of comedy, right? In a way, it's comedy, and you want people to laugh. That's hard.
It's new. It's
Harder
new.
than just
too.
dancing. Just stop just dancing. I hate the dancing. Unless you do dances, and I'm sorry.
I've tried some. I haven't done them successfully, but I've had a couple videos go over 1,000 views.
Wow.
Somewhat famous.
I don't understand the algorithm. I don't get it, and I never will.
It's a giant.
I'm gonna stick in my lane. I'm gonna stick to my lane.
Oh, you have to adapt to. You have to adapt. Come on.
I've adapted. My podcast is now being recorded via Zoom, and there's video versions of it, and I'm really excited about that. And that's my adaptation.
Wow, are you gonna make a YouTube channel too?
We actually do have a YouTube. Tennis Channel has a YouTube, and that's
I know. Were you gonna post them there?
Yeah, they've been posted there before. Yeah, and the Facebook. I know people aren't on the Facebook, but the videos are.
The Facebook.
Yeah.
The Facebook. The Facebook company. It's not just Facebook anymore. It's the Facebook company. Okay, so I think the next topic we have to talk about is whether or not tennis is coming back in 2020, and I'm just going to say out loud that it's not. I don't care what anyone says. Personally, if it does, great. That's fine with me. But you're just putting another global pandemic in someone else's hands that probably shouldn't be, and it shouldn't be. Like the U.S. Open shouldn't move. I think they should just cancel it. Roland Garros came out, I think, 2 weeks ago and started refunding people money when they wanted it back because they knew they weren't going to be able to do it. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think we are not experts, obviously.
Oh, no, we're not.
Everyone's playing this week by week because no one knows what they're doing because it's so unprecedented. But I think there's no way that tennis will be back. And I don't understand why we suddenly think that January 2021, like, yeah, we're good. Let's go. Like Australian Open came out and said we might not have any fans and only have Australians allowed to come, which is, I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
That was psychotic.
You got to do because they need to have. I think the Australian Open feels confident that their tournament's going to happen. But how do we decide? Like we're all like, yeah, 2020 is done. But like, how is 2021 okay? I don't. From my perspective, the U.S. Open, it feels really, really challenging because I'm in New York, so it's the epicenter, even though it's not as dramatic as it might seem. But the U.S. Open Flushing Meadows is a hospital, right? So how are we going to turn around in 3 months and play an international tournament with hundreds of people at bare minimum just playing, and then mention their parents coming, their team, the staff that runs that tournament? I mean, they are hundreds and hundreds of people that have to make this tournament happen. I don't think it's possible. And I think people underestimate how difficult a tournament is. And someone who's been to tournaments, we've been to a lot, you and I think we know that it takes a lot of people. And that's what we're not really getting. Tennis itself, yeah, it's 6 feet apart. It can be very safe. People should be playing in parks, I think. But a tournament is brutal. And I don't see that happening in the next few months.
So to point out what you just said with the tournaments, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that has to be done, first of all. So people think it takes maybe like 4 months before a tournament to prepare for the next one. No, it takes a full year. As soon as one ends, you just plan for the next one because you basically have to come up with a business plan, a social media plan, and a marketing plan the year it's going to happen.
The biggest thing is sponsors for small tournaments. I mean, we've talked to tournament directors before, like for example, Bob Moran in Charleston. Yeah. That's a bigger tournament, but smaller ones like the Bronx Open, it requires sponsors. And for tournaments like ATP 250s and WT Internationals, I don't see how all of them are going to survive this because you're going to lose income.
You're going to lose
thousands.
Save
some money, sure, by not having the tournament. If you canceled it in time, you're going to save money by not holding the tournament, sure. But you're going to lose so much money and possible sponsors because the economy is chaos. So I'm in the U.S. Open. Yeah, it's going to be upsetting if that does get canceled. French Open, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's a small tournament that I'm really, really concerned about because they are such hidden gems. Like I I can't imagine anywhere better than the Delray Beach Open. Like these are tournaments that are like so great.
I would have wanted to go to Winston-Salem this year too, because that I've heard a lot of great things about that one too.
Yeah. Newport, I mean, Newport is a gem, and these are
Oh
tournaments.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, most of them are probably going to be fine and canceled this year, back next year. Like, yeah, but I don't know. And we don't know, even you and I don't really know all that goes into tournaments, but it's not
Oh
that
no.
simple. And
We're not
safety-wise, it's going to be so different, I think, moving forward.
safety-wise too. It's kind of crazy how it took that long personally for the Indian Wells to call it, because when they announced the email the day before the final that the ball kids were going to be wearing gloves and players are going to be getting their own towels.
You mean the day
I'm
before it
still.
started?
I'm sorry.
You mean the day before it started?
No, the day before it ended. The Challenger.
Oh, the
The
Challenger.
Challenger.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot the Challenger. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
happening. Okay.
that was happening while some of the major players were
Mhm.
warming up for it. But the crowds that would be within like a hallway, maybe like this size, you still have masses and masses amounts of people walking, breathing, touching the same thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can try to be safe. And I think going forward, I think ball kids are going to cease to exist, to be honest, which is going to be hard to believe, but
Maybe the linesmen, they have a system now of calling lines via like the cameras and stuff. That's been
yeah.
tested.
And Charleston, I think this year was supposed to be the first one without linesmen. It was going to do all electronic calling. So they're going to have to test that out next year.
Indian
So
Wells, though, hindsight's 2020. I think them canceling at the time felt absolutely insane. For one case in that region and then to cancel the whole thing in that moment, utter shock. Looking back, I think it was like the smartest move I've ever, because they would have probably caused, I don't know how many cases to just matter, like, you know, be a hotspot. Yeah.
it would have caused a smaller pandemic with just in the state of California, because my Airbnb was
area.
Yeah, my Airbnb was 4 miles down the road from the hospital where the patient was taken. And there's two sides to the coin. And it's like, one, why bring everyone and wait a day before it officially starts? Or two, cancel it and make sure everyone's safe.
But
So
you just can't believe canceling a tennis tournament and that in March, early March, canceling a tennis tournament to me just seemed impossible. Cancel a Grand Slam, it just didn't seem like it was something that was possible. But with each passing day, let alone a week, everything being canceled is like the norm and what I expect. Now I'm like, if a tournament comes back, I would be just as shocked probably as I was when Indian Wells was canceled. Like, it's your reality is completely switched and your perspective has switched. And looking back, I think they made the right call, obviously, but I don't know. I mean, to be the first one to go is also really scary. But
do you think we're bringing back tennis too early with all these exhibitions? Because personally, I think they're trying. Personally, and you probably can't comment on this, but I think with the UTR tournaments, they're pushing it a little bit early, but I understand why they're doing it, because all of them are in Florida together and a lot of them hang out and train in the same areas. So it's easier. And Florida is just a different fucking country at this point. But for me, it's a little bit.
Florida is special. You know,
Florida
as someone that grew up in Florida, Florida does live kind of in its own little special place. I think having exhibitions I wouldn't say it's early, but I do see how, because players, you know, like we've had like a Tony Paul, Riley Opelka exhibition, they're training and living together. I mean, they're out on some boat every day together. Like these guys are quarantine housing together. And if you try to be careful and expand to 4 players who are in the same academy, who are sharing the same facilities, maybe with their training, I can see that being safe. It's once you start bringing in someone who's going to come clean, the umpire, and who else will be in charge? Maybe the tournament director. I don't know. I haven't been to one of these events. I don't really know how many people are on the grounds, but I imagine it's not just 4 players and an umpire. I think there's probably like 10, 15 people. I know Tennis Channel had a crew that went down to one of these events.
Exactly.
You know, there's a risk, but I think the risks are calculated. And I think that we need it. I think without some kind of tennis in the next couple of weeks, months, I don't know, like the sport needs live tennis. So I think it's great that they're trying, but also cautious. You know, you got to be a little wary.
And I think they're trying that. And I think it's trial and error at this point to see how well it's going to go or how entertaining it's going to be and how well people are going to take to it. Because I was on a Zoom call last week with a couple of people, and we were talking about, would you rather see exo tennis, a live exo tennis, or a high intensity players practice streamed? And
What
I think it was like 50-50. Because it depends who the exhibition is, because I just want to see how competitive it is. But watching a high intensity practice from a player and listening to some of that strategy is very interesting, and you can get more captivated with it when it comes to listening and learning from a pro player like that.
I want a third option. I want it to be more like the exhibitions in days past, in our normal days. Like when Roger and Rafa went to South Africa and played the exhibition, like that kind of thing where they're talking to each other, they hear what they're saying to each other, they're making jokes, and maybe someone is virtually commenting on the video we're watching. So maybe it's not live or it is live, but there's an element of entertainment. That's what I want, because I think watching, Riley Opelka beat Tommy Paul and fast games to 4, it's okay. It's good to be back, but it's nothing's on the line enough for it to be worth it to realistically report on. And then it's not entertaining enough as maybe it could be if there was a bit of banter. I don't know. Entertainment. But you're limited, right? Because you can't put on a rock show. You can't have, a comedian show up and be the live host, but maybe there's a way to put on a show.
Spice it up a little bit, because at this point, it can be dry at times.
I want to hear what Riley is saying to Tommy. They're back and forth. There's no way they were quiet that whole match. That's that. I don't know. It's an idea.
No, it's an idea. Actually, speaking of Riley, when he called out the ATP execs for not giving up their salaries, was, I think, for me, Riley is probably one of the outspoken players on tour.
Yeah, he's a dark horse. He is one of the best speakers I've ever heard as well.
Because he voices his own opinion. God, I can't speak English. Voices his own opinion in a way that people will listen, and points out things that other people's don't. And I think with that ATP thing, it actually put it into perspective. If you look at every other sport out there, like Goodell gave up his salary, PGA Tour players have given up their salary, and I feel like there should be a lot more there in substance.
Every company has handled this differently. I think that there is no rule book for how to handle a pandemic, so I'm not gonna lay blame on any company and how they handle things. But Riley being able to speak his mind openly against his literal employer is interesting, because you don't really hear that, and for us to think of that in a positive way, like, hey, he's doing a great job and he's going to be a leader one day. He's going to be on the council for sure. I can't imagine him not.
Yeah.
He seems like a very natural fit for a leader, and that's great to see in someone so young. And I mean, I don't know, it takes also some balls to say things outspokenly. So, but I don't know how each company is handling it differently. I know, vaguely how my own company is handling it, and that's kind of all I care about. But
well,
that's the way he feels too. That's his company. So you can say whatever he wants, as long as, he can't get fired. So
that's true. It's when you become a pro athlete, you can't get fired from your job.
You're also your own employer, but the ATP is your employer. The whole thing is a little bit confusing, but
it's so weird. I just realized that too. You're self-employed, your own employer, but you're not your own employer, because there's there's 4 different organizations that run what you do.
Right. It's unique. That's what we're here for.
Do you want to talk about the financial stuff or no?
What financial stuff?
The financial relief programs.
Not really, to be honest with you.
Dominic Thiem? No?
Not really. Dominic Thiem. What has he done? Well, him saying no.
Okay.
They all have, I don't.
Everyone has their own fucking opinion, but it's
the part that has me. Okay, this is my only thoughts on the whole money situation on the ATP WTA world.
I probably won't put this in, but
no, but Andy Murray winning the Madrid virtual tournament.
Yeah.
Right. So this guy, top player, right, wins this tournament. He wins a stack of money. He donates it to coronavirus, and he donates it to the relief fund to give to players who need it.
Yeah.
I find it interesting, because this is somebody, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's the wrong perspective, but he's been beating these players his whole career. And by beating them in Grand Slams and tournaments and first rounds, usually first, second rounds, he is making a lot more money than them every time he beats them. Literally not taking money from them, but in a way, right? They're trying to take money, and he's trying to take money, and he's usually getting most money. He wins a virtual tournament and he's like, here's some cash, guys. I don't know. I love
No,
it. Obviously, it's amazing, but it's just a
that's kind
different
of cool.
mind warp, right? For him to be battling to take their money and then be like, here's, I don't know.
That might be my preview for this. That might be my trailer. That statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been like, and I don't mean it in a negative way. I just mean
No, it's not
like
negative at all. It's just a different take on it.
amazing. The time that we're in right now for that to be, of course he's going to give money to charity. He's not going to pocket that. That would be insane.
Oh,
But
the NHS is like the number one priority in England right now.
Yeah,
everyone giving it.
It's impressive that we've gotten to this point so quickly. It didn't take a second for people to blink and start using their money for other purposes instead of just pocketing it in whatever money they have.
He has enough money, which is crazy because it's like the money that you can make from this versus the money you can give back. Like Rafa, Novak, Federer can donate probably 10 million alone because Federer's contract is fucking $300 million, and that's just from one brand. That's just from one brand. Like, you can't imagine how much Nike is paying Rafa.
I know we have like this huge disparity between how much these top players make and how much lower players make, and I don't know what the solutions are, but I do like how quickly the fund came together. I do like how quickly these tournaments, these virtual tournaments, are giving money back to players and to foundations and charities, and it wasn't even a hesitation. I love that.
I think there's another XO happening in Hungary next, the 22nd and the 23rd, and they're doing it Hopman Cup style, where they'll have like a team of like a girl and a guy will be paired together. They'll play singles and singles and then doubles together, which I think would be fun to watch. If they get to stream that would be more fun.
Yeah. I love Hopman Cup. I missed that event dearly. So that anything along that format is great.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that.
I think we're just in unprecedented territory. Like whatever exhibitions come out, we're all going to be watching and interested to see how they do, and whatever tournaments people win and how they decide to donate their money, we're all going to be applauding them, and it's a crazy time. Instagram live time.
And I think people would be shocked if people started pocketing money from these tournaments. If they would anyone? Do you think
it's their own business? But yeah.
Well, do you think people would get mad if, say, like someone on a lower rank, like Fiona Farrow, if she won the tournament, do you think she would donate all that money?
Yeah. See, that's interesting. Like, what would she have done? Would she have had to donate all the money the same way? I don't know what the exact
process was through that, because Murray did it like he posted that photo of the champagne, decided to give the money to NHS and the relief fund, but there were other players in there that were not highest ranked and probably did not have the same amount of money as these others. Like Kiki Burton's won it as well, and she probably maybe didn't. Right. She's probably all right, so maybe she could have.
But Fiona Farrow, that's a good one. She got to the final. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
I'm not sure what would have happened. I think the understanding was that it would go to charity, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'm curious as to how you're coping through all this, because you kind of rely on being at tournaments, right? And creating content with players.
Yeah. It's tough because I'm trying to create my own content at this point. Let's see, next week me doing, like, Svitolina's been posting all these Instagram workouts, so I decided to do it just for the fun of it. And I decided to dress like her too, so get ready for that.
Okay. So, can't wait.
I'll send you a photo.
Okay.
But I did the Flex Seal one. I do interviews, like small ones here and there. Like I try to do one piece of original content and then an interview. I try to do it more structured. But it is tough, I would say, because creating content and having not as many networks to tap to, like you have the opportunity to, is more difficult, because I could reach out to players and they'd be like, oh, we already signed a contract with this brand, so we can't do this type of content. They're preparing, or they're back to this. So it's going back to that idea of growing my own brand. It's much tougher because
challenging in any case, in any way it's challenging, let alone now.
Yeah. So I was very thankful when Laura Sigmund looked up what I did and told me she liked my videos. So I was kind of like, oh wow, she actually did. She not only did research, but she actually enjoyed some of my content. So I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna go into this and do well, and it turned out great. So
yeah, that helps the motivation for sure to get some good feedback from a real player.
A real player, yes. They're all real players.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Like a person.
Look, yeah, it is.
A comment. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, Nina, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again.
It's been great. Well, I mean, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the cue for those of you that are listening or watching this. It's if this doesn't get at least 100 views, Nina will never talk to me again.
Gosh, 100 views.
Well, you know what?
I've always wanted to be on the YouTube.
To YouTube. So hit the like button. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Perfect.